Ethan, like a lot of teenagers, was subconscious about his body, although he did have more reasons than most boys, as he suffered from a form of gynecomastia, a condition that gave him perfectly formed, feminine breasts. He also secretly wishes to wear skirts and dresses, which would be a perfect combination if he wasn't too embarrassed by both his body and his desire to follow through with this idea. So instead, he bandages his chest flat each morning and desperately tries to hide all of this from those around him. His mother and best friend, Stacy, knew about the gynecomastia, but no one else had found out yet. Coming towards the end of the school year, Ethan and his classmates are now starting to think about the upcoming prom. Knowing that Stacy had recently split from her girlfriend, Ethan suggests they go together. Stacy was bisexual, although up to this point, she had only dated girls, but her options were slim. There weren't many lesbian or bisexual girls in their small town. Stacy was shocked at first by Ethan's idea but quickly started to seriously consider it. They were good friends and would likely have spent large parts of the night together with the respective dates anyway. "Do I have to wear a dress?" Stacy asked, looking down at her baggy jeans. "Joanna was going to wear the dress and I was going in a suit." "I've already got the suit." "I'd like it if you did." "You'd look nice in a dress," Ethan replied, trying to sweeten her up. "I'd feel silly, plus I'm already taller than you, so I couldn't wear heels." "It could look weirder with flats," she told him. "I don't remember the last time I wore a dress." "Let's just go shopping at the weekend and see how you feel." "I'm sure we can find you something you're comfortable in," Ethan said. Stacy thought to herself, trousers would be something I'd be comfortable in, but it seemed a reasonable enough request just to try, so she nodded and agreed. Saturday morning came and Ethan met with Stacy before traveling to the nearby city to go shopping. In the first store, Ethan helped Stacy pick out a range of dresses. While Stacy was a little standoffish in picking dresses, Ethan was picking out dresses from multiple racks from all over the store. "Here, try these," Ethan said, having accumulated 5 or 6 dresses of different style: long, short, fitted, flared, low cut, halter neck, off the shoulders, asymmetrical, red, blue, pink, black. "See which style you feel most comfortable in and we'll focus on that," he told her as he handed her the dresses. Stacy looked at the dresses and reluctantly took them into the changing room while sighing under her breath. Several minutes later she returned, still wearing her baggy jeans and hoodie. "I don't think this is a good idea," she meekly told him. "I just don't feel comfortable in any of them. It just doesn't feel right." Ethan replied by simply suggesting they go for lunch, talk things over and think about what to do in the afternoon. Stacy again just nodded in agreement. "You seem so much more at ease with dresses, like you know what you're doing." "While it's entirely alien to me," she explained to him over lunch, "if only you could wear a dress instead." Ethan, with a slightly jokey tone, replied, "Yeah, as you said, you already have a suit while I've still got to buy mine. Unfortunately, I just don't have the figure for a prom dress." Secretly, deep down, he wanted to go to prom in a dress but couldn't bring himself to say that to her. "That's it!" Stacy exclaimed with wide eyes and clear excitement in her voice. "You could wear a dress." "You do have the figure for it," she told him. "Just unbind your chest and the dresses will fit perfectly." "Please, it would make me feel more comfortable trying the dresses on if you was trying some on too." It was like a switch activated in her head. The shyness from the morning had gone and Ethan could see just how much this could benefit her if he tried a dress on too. It's almost a win-win for him, although he couldn't admit it that easily. "What?" "No," Ethan proclaimed. At this point Stacy had already started to formulate the plan for the afternoon. "Oh, come on. I know you want to," Stacy started. "I've known you for years and I can tell you're more into dresses than I am." Everyone's more into dresses than you are. And that doesn't mean I want to wear them, he argued. Please, for me? Stacy carried on trying to bargain. It would make me feel a lot more comfortable. Ethan agreed and they finished up lunch. Stacy paid and they headed to the next dress store. Stacy suggested they each pick one dress for the other person to try on. Ethan picked a purple dress with spaghetti straps and lace detail over the bodice and knee-length skirt, while Stacy found a floor-length, backless, sky-blue mermaid dress with a halter neck for Ethan. As they headed into separate changing rooms, Stacy turned to Ethan and asked him to remove his chest bandages before putting the dress on. What? Ethan asked in surprise. He'd come so accustomed to wearing it he regularly forgets it's even on and feels odd without it. That dress is backless. You'd see the bandages if you kept them on. Plus, that bodice is designed to offer some support. And with that, Stacy disappeared into her changing room, leaving Ethan unsure what to do. Reluctantly, Ethan enters a changing room cubicle, removes the bandages strapping his breasts down and puts the dress on. It doesn't take too much to wiggle his way in as he doesn't have the hips that it was designed for. He then fiddles with the fastening at the back of the halter neck. As he's securing the fastening, he hears Stacy excitedly call, "Ready?" She certainly sounded more at ease and happier than she was that morning. Ethan, on the other hand, was terribly nervous. I guess," Ethan replied, and a split second later the curtain to his cubicle was swung open. "Wow," Stacy proclaimed with a real sense of shock. "You look stunning," she continued with no hint of sarcasm. Ethan, looking Stacy up and down and trying to distract from himself, "I'm not sure that cut suits you." Stacy agreed with him, "No, I don't think I have the bone structure for it." She then suggested they try on some more dresses together, as having him do it with her really helped. After multiple more dresses each, they call it a day and Stacy suggests he goes off and do some shopping on his own. "I've got some girl things I need to shop for and you've spent long enough dress shopping, I don't want to bore you with the rest." Ethan reads between the lines and agrees to meet her later before they head home. Almost 2 hours later, Ethan meets up with Stacy just before leaving to head back to their hometown. She has a few different bags of shopping from different stores, including a bag from a dress shop they visited together. "What's in all the bags?" Ethan asks. "Oh, I decided to buy a dress and then got some stuff to go with it," she tells him. "Can I see?" Ethan asks, intrigued to know which one she selected. "Not yet, it's a surprise," Stacy replied. As they arrived back in their hometown and were preparing to part ways, Stacy hands the bag from the dress store to Ethan. "Here, this is for you." Ethan looks down at the bag dumbfounded. "I picked you up a dress. You were more comfortable in every dress you wore than I was in any that I tried on," she says before whispering, "Plus I could tell from the bulge you had that you enjoyed it." Ethan went bright red, but before he could come up with an excuse, Stacy chimed in with, "You can either find someone else to go to the prom with or wear what I got you. And if you do wear it, I'll make it worth your while." She paused briefly to give him a wink. "I know you'd enjoy it even if I didn't do anything special on the night," she said in a husky whisper before turning to walk away. After a couple of steps, she turns and with a gleeful smile says, "Oh, and I've already messaged your mom to tell her what you've decided to wear to prom." Ethan arrives home and, with a heavy sigh, takes the dress out of the bag. It's a dark red satin, off-the-shoulder dress, with a fitted bodice and a tight, floor-length skirt. It's not one he tried on in the store, so he decides he better try it on now. Sliding into the silky dress felt amazing and he instantly adored the sensation. However, he was unable to get the zip past his waist. He removed the dress, hung it in his wardrobe before messaging Stacy that the dress doesn't fit. "Don't worry, "I've got a plan," is all she would tell him. Ethan and Stacy then left the conversation there for a few weeks until prom started to approach. Ethan's mom asked him about the dress, but he managed to delay showing her. Stacy helped by explaining to her that he was, for obvious reasons, a little shy about wearing it. Any attempts by Ethan to find out what Stacy was going to do about getting a larger size dress or how she might get the current one to fit didn't provide Ethan with any answers. Stacy managed to put off giving an explanation to that too. That was until the day of prom. Ethan arrived home to find a package on the doorstep with a tag reading to Ethan, "Love, Stacy." As he opened it, he found several items wrapped up and a message providing instructions. First, there was hair removal cream and instructions for using them. Once he'd removed all hair from his body and showered, the note instructed him to open the next item in the box. A pair of spandex underwear designed to smooth out his bulge, as she put it in her instructions, and produce a more feminine silhouette. Getting the underwear on wasn't too much of a struggle, but getting comfortable took a little work. Next was a bright red corset with rigid boning and 8 garter straps plus a pair of sheer, gloss stocking. After putting the corset on, he laced the back as tight as he could before turning his attention to the stockings. The corset made this particularly difficult as he struggled to breathe or bend over. Eventually, he was able to get the stocking on his feet and gently move them up his legs. As he did, he couldn't help but become aroused at the sensation it caused as they encased and slid over his smooth legs. Attaching the suspender straps was a struggle too, having never done it before. Getting all 8 secured took 10 to 15 minutes and would have ruined his arousal if he hadn't got a glimpse of himself from the neck down in the mirror. He now had a very succulent, ladle-like figure. Reading the provided set of instructions, he noticed the back of the corset must be entirely closed or the dress won't fit. Turning to check using his mirror, he noticed there were more than 2 inches left to go. By this time his body had started to adjust to the corset, and with some work, he was able to tighten it some more. There, he thought, that must be it. I can hardly take a breath, and any attempts to inhale were abruptly cut off. Looking down, he notices for the first time his cleavage. He had a cleavage! The corset had padding built in to emphasize the already exaggerated cleavage that the tight corset was pushing out the top. His heart sank. I can't go through with this. Looking over his shoulder, he noticed the corset still needed to be tightened a further inch. "Knock knock, are you okay in there, dear? Can I see how you look in your dress?" his mom called from the hallway, clearly expecting him to have been finished dressing in this time. I'm having a little difficulty," he replied. "Oh, that's natural," she quickly reassured. "It's tough to maneuver the zip behind your back." And with that she proceeded to enter before he could stop her. "Oh. A corset," she says, hesitating only momentarily. She then notices the letter from Stacy and begins to read it. "Well, we better finish lacing you into that corset or you won't make it to prom," she informs him as she, without warning, moves into position to give him a hand. Unsure how to react, he simply stands there stunned as he feels her starting to untie the knot before he'd even been able to contemplate his options. Soon she's pulling hard on the cords to tighten the corset to where it needed to be. "Done," she proudly exclaims. Ethan is barely able to inhale and has to use all of his focus to control his breathing and keep it shallow. "So what's next?" his mom asks, looking at the note. "Mom, do you mind?" "I'm not dressed yet," Ethan says, deeply embarrassed about being dressed in only a corset, stocking, and a pair of spandex knickers, whilst also struggling to have enough breath to say more than a single syllable. "Oh, sorry dear," she replies, while turning to avert her gaze. He'd meant for her to leave, but this is at least an improvement, and trying to speak any more seemed too difficult right now. Ethan walked over to his wardrobe, took out his dress and took it off of its hanger. Sliding the satin material over his sheer stocking felt incredible. If it wasn't for the tight underwear, he'd be rock hard, but it did a good job of keeping everything hidden away. He pulled the dress up over his body and then sets to work on getting the dress zipped up. After a minute or so of struggling, Ethan let out a slight sigh and said, "Mom, could you give me a hand?" "Of course, Ethan," she said, pausing briefly in thought. "Is it Ethan tonight, or is there something else you'd prefer?" Ethan was shocked. He found it awkward enough having to ask his mom for help with his dress, but this took him by surprise and escalated his embarrassment to another level. Is all Ethan could muster. The shock and the tight corset made his breathing very erratic, and even if he had an answer, he might not have been able to say it. "How about Ellie?" she suggested. Still struggling to speak, Ethan simply nodded. "Zip done," his mom proclaimed. "Now for your makeup," she tells him, putting down the note from Stacy and picking the next set of items from the box. Clearly she'd been reading ahead. "Take a seat," she instructed him. Several minutes pass as Ethan's mom applies his makeup, styled what hair he had, and clipped on a couple of earrings that Stacy had put in the box. He's unsure what makeup he's wearing as he's not able to see a mirror from where he sat. The only thing he knows for certain is the bright red nail polish. Ethan by this point is in a constant state of shock, unable to comprehend each step before the next one has started. Maybe it's the lack of oxygen, but he's unable to think more than a few seconds ahead and is just following his mother's instructions. She hands him a couple of deep red high heels that match the color of the dress, while she begins to put a few items into a small handbag. "That should be everything," she says as she zips up the handbag and hands it to him. "Now, would you like to see how you look?" she asks him as she takes his hand and helps him to his feet. Again, Ethan automatically follows her lead. His brain's trying to decipher whether he does want to see himself. Could he just get undressed and not go to prom? Is it too late to turn back, or is he past that point? Should he just see how he looks before making any rash decisions? Before he's able to answer any of those questions, he's pulled to his feet, with some help to steady himself in his heels, and he's brought in front of a mirror where his eyes make their way up his feminine reflection. He stood there in 3-inch dark red heels which were almost unnoticeable below the long, floor-length dark red satin gown. The skirt was tight around his legs and would become stretched across his thighs as he walked, forcing more ladylike steps. Being made for a woman a size smaller than him, the dress fit nicely around his hips, but even a meter or two away from the mirror, he could make out the defined bumps of the corset's suspender straps that were attached to his stockings. The bodice was lace-covered, meaning that although it clung tightly to his corset, the boning was not visible. And the top of the dress had a slight sweetheart cut that did nothing to hide his overly exaggerated cleavage. Ethan felt very exposed. Not that he looked like Ethan anymore. His face was adorned with a smooth foundation, subtle rouge blush, matching eyeshadow, black eyeliner and mascara, and red lipstick that matched the color of his nails. His mom had styled his short medium-length hair into an elegant bob, and he wore a set of silver dangly clip-on earrings that looks rather sophisticated and mature. In his hands, Ethan held tightly onto a black satin clutch handbag his mom had passed him with his phone, keys and money. "Come on, Ellie," his mom called as she headed out of his bedroom door. "Stacy will be waiting." Mortified at not only being called Ellie but also the now real prospect of having to go out like this, Ethan then started to question it again. He stared at his reflection. He couldn't help but admire how beautiful and elegant he looked. Any girl at prom would have been happy to look this way. Not to mention the feeling of everything was divine to him, the satin dress, the smoothness of the stockings, the tightness of the corset and high heels. He did enjoy it. Maybe no one will recognize me, he thought. I look too girly to be a boy and definitely don't look like myself. How could they recognize me? And with that rationalization, he slowly started to follow his mother. The first couple of steps were hard, but then he had to walk downstairs in 3-inch heels and a tight dress. As he walked past the living room door, he heard his sister cry out, "No way." He turned to her, having suddenly lost all confidence, but the look on her face quickly turned from "this is hilarious" to "see my brother in a dress" to "holy cow, he looks incredible." "How the hell? What? You look amazing," she involuntarily stumbles through. It's not like her to compliment her brother, but being so taken back by his appearance, she didn't think through what she was saying. "Hurry up, Ellie," his mom called from outside. Ethan keeps walking, leaving his sister gobsmacked. She'd surely have mocked him for having been called Ellie if she wasn't so speechless. Knowing that brought a smile to Ellie's face, and he'd started to feel reassured with what he was about to do. Ethan approaches the front door, looks out into the big wide world, which suddenly felt a whole lot scarier, and took his first monumental step outside. The air had a slight chill to it in the early evening sun. He only had to take a few steps to the car. "You're going to have to get in very ladylike in that tight dress, Ellie," his mom informed him. "Remember, bum first and then swing your legs in with your knees together. Then do the same in reverse to get out." Ethan's mom drove him to Stacy's house. They stopped on the road, meaning Ellie had to walk up the full length of the driveway. Ethan paused for a moment. "It's okay, Ellie," his mom reassured him. Although all he could think was, does she have to call me that? Stacy's clearly put a lot of effort into this. "You look beautiful. Nothing bad is going to happen," she continued. "Now, off you go. We're a bit late. Stacy will be waiting." Ellie gets out of the car, the way his mom had told him to, with his knees together, makes his way to Stacy's door, and rings the bell. It all kind of passed with Ethan in a bit of a daze. He's not fully aware of what he's doing until she opens the door in a smart, well-tailored black suit and white blouse. "Oh wow, you look amazing. Come on in," she says, beckoning him inside. Happy to get inside and away from potential prying eyes, Ellie complies. "And the heels aren't too tall," she says, gleefully impressed with her purchases and his appearance. With Stacy being quite tall for a girl and Ethan being rather short, they are now almost eye to eye, with Stacy still having a slight height advantage. "Come on through, Ethan," she gestures to him as she makes her way through her house to the kitchen. He replies softly with, "It's Ellie tonight." She just turns to him with a contempt smile and says okay. As they reach the kitchen, Stacy announces, "Hey everyone, this is Ellie." Ethan was mortified. There stood their closest friends. He had no idea they were going to be there. He didn't think a lot of them would even be at their prom at all. The room is silent for a brief moment before one of the girls cries out, "Ethan, oh my God, I love that dress, you look stunning in it. And I love what you've done with your hair." "It's Ellie for tonight," one of the guys chips in. "Right?" he says, turning to Ellie as he passes her a drink. Ellie nods and takes a sip. She can't help but notice the lipstick mark she leaves on the glass. A little while later, a limo arrives to take them all to prom. The group of friends gather their stuff and head out the front door. Ellie, tiptoeing in her tight dress and high heels, felt safe surrounded by friends that accepted her so quickly. The feel of the satin sliding against her sheer stockings was the best sensation she'd experienced in a long time. She'd even started to get used to the corset. Stacy and Ellie had a lovely time at prom together. Ellie was surprised at how content and at ease she felt in a dress, and his friends had proceeded as if nothing was out of the ordinary. As the night was coming to the end, Stacy and Ellie were slow dancing and casually chatting about plans for the following week. "Stacy, would you like to go to the movies?" Ellie, "Sure, who else is going?" Stacy, "I thought it could be just us two." Ellie, "You mean like a date?" Stacy, "Yeah, that is if you want." Ellie smiles before responding with yes. She then looks down at her dress and the bust that's bursting out of the top of it. "Would you like me to wear a dress again?" Stacy, "Only if you want to." Ellie contemplates for a moment. She glances around at her friends and then back at Stacy, whose arms are wrapped tightly around her waist. Ellie felt safe with Stacy. She'd certainly helped pull off tonight beautifully. She also didn't want to go back to being Ethan and never wear a dress again. "Ellie, how about I get a dress that doesn't require a corset this time?" Stacy holds Ellie tight as they continue swaying to the music until the song finishes and the night comes to an end.